Okay, so we're going to begin today with San Andreas, the big action movie out at the moment. Stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Paul Giamatti, and Alexandra Dadadadididodododoro. The story is that the San Andreas fault is having the big one, that being the biggest earthquake in human history, and everything's going to crap. That is as succinctly as I can possibly put the story for this movie, as the story for this movie is a little bit of a mixed up mess, though we'll get onto that shortly. What I can definitely say for this movie's favour that it is a big, bold, broad, bombastic action movie which is suitably thrilling. There's plenty of action sequences which I did enjoy, and sitting in a cinema where everything was vibrating, rattling and rolling from the bass, from the speakers of all the big buildings falling over and the explosions was enjoyable. It is one of those action experiences where you're feeling it right down to your very bones, so it is perfectly fine as an action movie. It is great as an action movie. It's a nice little alternative for slightly more clever action movies like Mad Max. It is the summer blockbuster in all its form, even though it does, from a storytelling perspective, feel like a subpar Roland Emmerich movie. And you know we're onto a bit of a loss when it's a subpar Roland Emmerich venture. The story to this movie, or stories rather, are fairly... The three major protagonists within this movie, played by Dwayne Johnson, Paul Giamatti, and Alexandra Dadadadidodododoro, all of whom have different stories, all of whom have different characters, motivations, but only two of the stories, that being Dwayne Johnson's and Alexandra Dadadadidodoro's stories, actually linked together. Paul Giamatti's, whose story I find to be probably the more interesting, isn't connected to anyone. He's just there to explain how nasty and horrible the big one is, or rather would be if it actually were to happen. And everything else is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson doing the disaster movie tropes and cliches. He is a recently divorced man. He meets up with his ex-wife, and lo and behold, they get back together in the end. I should say spoilers at that point, but realistically, what were you expecting? It's one of those movies that treats divorce in a fairly loose way because, you know, the hero has to get off with someone at the end, so it might as well be his ex-wife, and we show divorce as being a very alien, strange thing because most Hollywood movies seem to be stuck in the 1950s when it comes to such ideas. In any case, worrying about the story, the character and such is a bit pointless because these things aren't really relevant to this movie. It is just a big, bold action movie. It is not the greatest action movie I've ever seen. It's not the greatest action movie I've seen recently, but it is fun for what it is. It can be dumb, it can be thick, it can be stupid, but at least it's fun whilst it lasts. I enjoyed it and I'd recommend it to you.